The Sahaba, the companions. We're still talking about the companions. And we've reached here. Imam al-Tahawi said, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنَ الْقَوْلَ فِي أَصْحَابِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم فيه الطاهرات من كل دنس وذرياته المقدسين من كل رجس فقد برئ من النفاق. Whoever purified his statements pertaining to the companions of the Messenger of Allah and his chaste wives from all filth, and his pure descendants from atrocity, is innocent of hypocrisy. It is obligatory to glorify and love the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the respected unmarriable mothers of the believers who cannot be touched by or be alone with marriageable men, respected like mothers, unmarriageable like mothers. So they are the mothers of the believers, Ummahatul Mu'mineen, or the mothers of the faithful. But they cannot be touched. They are unlike mothers in that way, nor can there be privacy between them and marriageable men. So they are unlike mothers in this way. Here's a footnote. The Prophet ﷺ had a total of 14 wives, and some said 15. The first saying is, wait here. Many of them are from the tribe of Quraysh. The rest are from other Arabic tribes, except one from the children of Israel. Yani she's authentic Israelite. From the sons of Harun. The first and best of them was Khadija bint Khuwaylid. Khadija bint Khuwaylid. And she was the mother of all of his children except Ibrahim. Among them was Saudah bint Zum'ah, Aisha bint Abi Bakr, who was the second best among them, and the most knowledgeable of all of them, because she's the most knowledgeable woman that Allah created. Rahimahullah. In fact, she is the most knowledgeable woman ever, yes. Among them is Hafsah. Yeah, and Aisha, her outcome is an example of why the Prophet ﷺ married the women. To propagate knowledge amongst the women. So that the women can spread the knowledge amongst the women. That's a very important thing. And so some person who has a grudge against the Prophet ﷺ, you might say, did he need to marry them though? There was benefit in him marrying them so that they can have personal contact with him, and then they will see him on personal level, and then they can convey and teach to the people, whether they learn from him on a one-on-one basis or just by being able to observe him and then to teach the people what they observe about the Prophet ﷺ. And they would acquire an enormous amount of knowledge. Aisha was not the only scholar from amongst the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Salama, for example, also she was a scholar. I don't know if they were all scholars. I didn't hear. Among them is Hafsah bint Umar. Hafsah, Umar's daughter. And Salama, who is Hind bint Abi Umayyah. Juwayriyah bint al-Harith. Habiba bint Abi Sufyan. Zainab bint Jahsh. She's the one who was married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the documentation in Al-Lawhul Mahfuz without a formal marriage contract. And she was previously married to the man that the people used to regard as Prophet Muhammad's adopted son. But Allah revealed that adoption is not valid. Adoption with the meaning of annexing some child into your family and then giving him the family name and raising him as part of the family, this is not valid. Not that raising someone else's child is invalid. No, that's valid. Raising someone else's child is valid, and you must preserve this child's lineage. And then when that child gets old enough, then you have to be mindful of privacy. Because if it's a boy, it's going to have to be mindful about mom in the house. If it's a girl, it's going to have to be mindful about dad in the house. Because not really mom or dad. Those are just, if you want, foster parents who raised that person until they got older. And then once they get too old, then rules of privacy will kick in. So Zainab was married to the one that was regarded as Prophet Muhammad's adopted son, and the people used to call him Ibn Muhammad. Allah revealed that adoption is invalid and made Zainab the Prophet's wife. And this emphasizes the invalidity of adoption, because had Zayd been the Prophet's son, had he had the judgment of being the Prophet's son, then Zainab would have had the judgment of being the Prophet's daughter-in-law, and then it wouldn't have been valid to marry her or to be married to her. Safiyyah bint Huyay, Maymunah bint al-Harith, and others. When he died, he had 9 wives. They are the aforementioned, except Khadijah, who died before the migration. And he did not marry another woman while he was married to her. Among his concubines, concubine. Is that a good word? I'm not confident. Let me see. Concubine definition: a woman who lives with a man but has lower status than his wife or wives. No. Not like that. A mistress. No. What's meant here is slave woman. So I'm going to remove that word there. Among his slave women from the spoils of war was Rayhana bint Zayd from Banu Qurayza, who were Jews. Jews who lived close to Al-Madinah. She was not a wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Muqawqis, the ruler of Egypt, the vice-regent of Egypt, he was under the Caesar. Al-Muqawqis, the ruler of Egypt, but he's like the governor though, because he was under the Caesar. He gave the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a slave woman named Maria as a gift. When she embraced Islam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam copulated with her, and she gave birth to Ibrahim. So those wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were made successful by their matrimony and relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and are clear of what defames them. Yes, and we're going to defend the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here in his marriage to these women, just like the case of prophets before him, whose stories are in the Bible. I find it interesting that, for myself, for example, growing up, hearing from Christians about the wives of Solomon, the wives of other people whose stories are, or who have some stories in the Bible, whether those stories are authentic or not. And when we heard those old stories, we didn't used to find it strange that they had so many wives. It was like, granted, it was nothing. Although that's not our culture these days for someone to have so many wives. But now Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nowadays people would look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam having the number of wives that he had and assume that he has lust, that he's motivated by lust to marry these women. This is not the case. Whoever says the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a womanizer, then he's a kafir. And there's another benefit to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam marrying these women, which is that by doing so, this contributed to unifying the Arabic tribes, the tribes. If someone did like the Prophet, now you can't have as many wives as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. a Muslim man can only have up to 4. But if he were a chief and he married from different tribes, then this is, inshallah, a good thing. Something like that is beneficial, unites the people. It's a short-sightedness, really. And even for the women, I advise you, even women, it's a short-sightedness to see that a man having more than one wife is merely motivated by the drive to have more sex. It's not the case. Then once man gets involved in that, especially if he is doing all of his obligations, it's not going to be about the sex for him, because this is a lot of work. Going back and forth and working and providing and dealing, even just dealing only, just dealing with more than one woman. Just that alone. Because dealing with one woman can be sometimes a challenge. So they were made successful by their matrimony and relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they are clear of what defames them. Ahlul Sunnah agree that the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will enter paradise. The term Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, or the family and descendants of the Prophet, yani the household, the prophetic household, includes Ali, Fatima, Al-Hassan, Al-Hussein, Al-Abbas, and the like, and does not allude to the exclusion of females. I think we talked about this last time. Females meaning here the wives, those who came from other families, because they married into the Prophet's. Yeah, they married the Prophet, so they entered into his households. They are not excluded because they were originally from another household. The proof for that is the saying of Allah, قَالُوا أَتَعْجَبِينَ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ عَلَيْكُمْ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. The angel said to the wife of Abraham, Sarah, "Are you surprised about the command of Allah? May the mercy of Allah and His blessings be upon you, O people of the house," or people of the household. Who's people of the household here? That's Sarah. What's meant by this, O people of the household, is Sarah herself. The angels asked her this because they came with the good news of Abraham having a child. He will have a son who becomes a scholar. Not just a scholar, though, who will become a prophet. But they told him, you are being given the glad tidings of Ghulamun Alim, a knowledgeable child. And he will become knowledgeable. But more than a scholar, a prophet. All the prophets are scholars, though. Salawatullahi ta'ala alayhim wasallam. So, being that she was a barren old woman, and Ibrahim also was an old man, she smacked her own face, and she said, Ajuzun Aqim, a barren old woman? Meaning, shall a barren old woman have a baby? قَالُوا أَتَعْجَبِينَ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. They said to her, are you surprised about the command of Allah? Although you live in a prophet's house and you see miracles? Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu alaykum ahlal bayt. May the mercy of Allah and His blessings be upon you, O people of the household. Our Shaykh believes that the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are all successful in the afterlife. He said in his summary under the obligations of the heart, وَمَحَبَّةُ اللَّهِ وَمَحَبَّةُ كَلَامِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالصَّحَابَةِ وَالْآلِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. Amongst the obligations of the heart is to love Allah, His Quran, His Messenger, the companions, and the al, the Muslim relatives and wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the righteous Muslims. Footnote: the al of the Prophet here refers to the Muslim relatives and wives and the pious followers of the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وسبحان الله وبحمده